Hello and welcome to Council Catch Up. I'm Derek Westby, your host here on WSTO TV. WSTO TV is on Spectrum Channel 981, TDS HD Channel 981, on Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV, Android, and iOS apps on YouTube and Facebook. We're here to talk about the March 12th, 2024 City Council meeting, but we're going to briefly talk about a few little things from the previous meeting because we didn't do a Council Catch Up on that. So on the February 27th, 2024 City Council meeting, we're going to talk about the reconfiguration of the intersection of Holtz Road and Jackson Street. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Holtz Road and Jackson Street, you might remember, was reconfigured with two sets of signals during the process of installing Jackson Street extension into Kettle Park West. And where Holtz Road turns in, there's kind of a double stoplight, and it creates some confusion and backup, and it's really difficult to time the lights correctly. So it's become kind of a safety issue over the years. And as part of the DOT's conversation with the Highway 51 corridor project, we brought up the fact we thought that there might be an opportunity to make some improvements at that intersection now that some of the other roads have been installed and there's multiple ways to get out to Highway 51. And the DOT agreed. So basically what we proposed is to do a right in, right out into Holtz Road. So if you're coming from 51, you can take a right in there. And then when you leave the businesses that are there, the car dealership or the garden center, you would take a right out and then you would cut through one of the other roads to get back to Highway 51. You know, the biggest challenge will be is if you're coming from Walmart, for example, you will not be able to take a left into Holtz Road. So, you know, I think it might take a little while for people to get used to that, but we think overall that's going to be an improvement, and we have pages of data that the DOT did with car counts and timing at all different times of the day, and they kind of reached the same conclusion that we did, that an improvement is appropriate there.
All right. So now on to the council meeting for March 12th. You had the call to order. There were a bunch of presentations. Do you want to talk about any of the presentations?
Sure. The Stoughton Area School District, as you may have heard, is going to an operation referendum. So Dr. Keyser was there to present to the City Council kind of the history of the school funding and really what has led us to a point where we need to ask the community for support on the referendum. And then we've been working closely with the school district to project out future enrollment. That's one of the key factors for their funding formula. And they take that information, they work with their financial consultants, and they put together an operational referendum that'll be on the ballot on April 2nd. We also had a presentation from Morgan Sally, who is a representative for Congressman Mark Pocan. Morgan and I kind of took a tour of the town yesterday. We showed her around what's going on in Stoughton, and then she wanted to share with the City Council some of the support and services that Congressman Pocan can provide us. We had an update from the Stoughton Area Community Foundation. You might recall that they were tasked with distributing some ARPA funds out to the nonprofits in the community, so they gave us a comprehensive update of how those funds were distributed and kind of where they're at on the process. And then we also, as part of the conversation on TIF 10 and TIF 11, Dave Ferris from Ellers was there to give us an update on those TIF creation and where we are in the process.
All right. And then there was a few things under consent agenda, Setnamai and Coffee Break Festival, but that all kind of goes together. Probably
the key thing there is for Setnamai, there is a couple changes because of construction at the middle school site. So the dancers, the Norwegian dancers, will be performing at the high school, and then the Rosemaulers will be in the church up by the high school for their craft show, basically. So those are a couple changes with Setnamai. Kind of the good news up there is we've always provided shuttles from the high school to the downtown. So if you're up there to see the dancers or going to the Rose Mauling, you might want to consider using the shuttle to get to downtown. That way you don't have to worry about parking. It's really convenient. I've done it in the past. For the coffee break, we are doing some road construction on 4th Street. That'll begin after the fair is over this year, and we'll be doing from Main Street basically to the bridge on 4th Street. So working with the chamber, it was decided to move the coffee break out to Racetrack Park this year. So that's a notable change. Racetrack Park, I think, will be a good place to host it. There's more parking there. There's a lot of green space there. So hopefully people will come out and enjoy coffee break at Racetrack Park this year.
All right. And then under new business, the first item is Resolution 28 talking about TID 10.
Yeah, so TID 10 is going to be the downtown TID. We call it an overlay. So currently TID 4 is the downtown TID. And what happens is when you get into the last 5 years of a TIF district, you really can't expend any money out of that TIF. You can only collect the property tax increment to pay off the debt that was created. And we've had a request from a property owner at 211 South Water Street for TIF assistance to convert a commercial building into residential apartments. So as part of that conversation, we decided to create a new district downtown. And then we've also been talking to multiple other businesses that want to participate in that. Investing into the buildings in the downtown is always a good thing. It creates more value. It helps preserve the historic nature of our downtown. So we're really excited to be able to start another downtown TIF. And as part of 211th Street at the last meeting, there was some ordinance changes on the parking. One of the things that they requested for that project is to have on-site parking in the North Municipal parking lot. So what we've been trying to do is come up with some creative ways to accommodate that request. So the first thing we did is we eliminated the no parking from 3 to 5 a.m. on Water Street, and that's going to be kind of our pilot. Right now, if you live in an apartment on Water Street or many of the other side streets, you really don't want to park overnight from 3 to 5 in the morning. You may get a citation, and there's not really a great reason to have that restriction. There is some services that may come through at night, like snow plowing, but when we have a snow emergency, there's alternate side parking anyway, so we feel we're covered there. So we've basically created 16 parking spaces for overnight parking on Water Street now that weren't currently available. And then as part of the 211 South Water Street at the Plan Commission the other night, we introduced a proposal to move a dumpster that's in that parking lot there and create 4 or 5 additional parking spots in the parking lot. The request from the developer is for 18 parking spots, and we would enter into a lease for that. So what we're trying to do is create some ordinances that free up more parking and would allow us to negotiate a lease arrangement with the property owners.
All right. And then Resolution 29, item number 7, is TID 11.
So TID 11 would be created for the Stoughton Trailers project on the corner of Highway 51 and B. And we had an approval at the last City Council meeting. And since that meeting, there was a couple of updates we wanted to do to the agreement. At the request of Stoughton Trailers, we wanted to change a little bit of language, nothing that's really material or affects anything, but just to clean things up a bit. So the City Council deliberated on that last night and moved forward with the updated developers agreement.
All right. Item number 8, Resolution 30, bad debt write-offs for Stoughton Utilities.
Yeah, so annually there's some monies that are basically uncollectible from Stoughton Utilities. It could be a business that closed, maybe they went out of business. It could be a homeowner that moved or is deceased, or just something that they weren't able to collect. So instead of accumulating it and spending resources to continue to try to collect something that's really uncollectible, they just write off that debt on an annual basis.
All right. Item number 9, Resolution 31, release of an easement. You have actually 2 of those. So
Yeah, and they're both related to Stoughton Health. So the hospital is doing a huge addition out there, and they work with Stoughton Utilities to basically eliminate 2 easements and create 2 new easements. The existing easements would be literally underneath the new building, so that wasn't really going to work out too well to service them. So they've created new locations for those easements to run their utilities.
all right. Item number 11, Resolution 33, to amend the 2023 adopted budget for department deficits.
Yeah, so we had some overruns in our department, and Director Ellinger had discovered last year that we really hadn't been following the correct state statutes as far as how to handle either overruns in the budget or surpluses in the budget. You're supposed to zero it out at the end of the year and not carry it over. You can make a carryover request, but it has to be voted on by the city council per state statute. So he, on an annual basis, will be cleaning up those accounts.
So that looks like it then ties into Resolution 34 and 35 as well.
It did, and really what we were focusing on was the overruns in the specific departments. And I communicated to the finance committee and to the city council some measures that we're going to put in place to try to really kind of get ahead of those and do a better job monitoring those accounts.
All right. And then item number 14 was Ordinance 5 of 2024, first reading.
So this one was another one that has to do with parking. We've been kind of cleaning up all of our parking ordinances as we worked on the parking changes for 211 South Water Street. We also discovered that with the relocation of City Hall, that in that parking lot and then a couple other city parking lots, we didn't have any ordinances in place for 48-hour parking. And we really have that in all the other parking lots and on our streets. We don't want to encourage people to store equipment or, vehicles on the road. We want to have vehicles that they're driving, and especially when there's snow emergencies, it makes it a little bit cumbersome to remove the snow if there's vehicles parked in the lots. So we were basically just adding the 48-hour parking to areas that never really had an ordinance or signage.
Okay. And the last item, Resolution 36, was the STI development agreement.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, basically City Attorney Dragney worked with the developers to do some updates on basically how the increment would be distributed. The original developers agreement really had a percentage for phase 1 and a percentage for phase 2 and a percentage overall. And at STI's request, they had asked us to remove the percentage for the overall. And depending on how the development shakes out, it may or may not be advantageous for Stoughton Trailers to do that. It really won't affect the city a whole lot. Maybe a little bit of interest, but nothing that we felt was material. And then the other part really had to do with some stormwater. The engineers they're working through verifying some materials and some numbers related to the stormwater pond.
All right, that's all we had for the March 12th, 2024 City Council meeting. We'll see you all next time for Council Catch-Up right here on WSTO TV.